Do you have a firm position on the voice? On this upcoming compulsory referendum in Australia here, where we will vote either for or against this voice. Now, what is the voice? The voice is a proposed advisory body that would sit in the Constitution, would be enshrined in the Constitution, and that would deal specifically with Aboriginal or First Nations matters. And the voice would be also composed by or compiled by Aboriginal people. Now, I have two conflicted voices about the voice. I don't know yet whether I'll vote yes or no. And in this video, I want to share with you these two conflicted voices, right? They're almost like two dogs that are barking at each other from opposite sides of the fence. So here we go. Hi, I am Jan from sustainablebutterflies.com.au, and on the screen you see my 5 pillars of sustainability. Okay, so now I am on the yes side of the fence, so supporting the voice, right? Well, for me, it's mainly this 60,000-year-old custodianship that Aboriginal people have maintained for all of these years. Their sustainable attitudes to and treatment of nature, animals, trees and plants and freshwater sources, like this holistic approach, right? There is no duality, no separation between them and the land, right? They are the caretakers and not takers, right? Now, for me, as much as I love Aboriginal traditions and cultures and sustainability, right, there will always be this dualistic approach, this separation between me and the land and the nature and animals, right? As much as I try, I'll always have this separation, just given my background and my culture, right? The land for me will never be a second skin. It will unlike for the Aboriginal people, right, where the land is their second skin, right? I will always be more of a taker and less of a caretaker. And from that angle alone, the voice not only seems to be a no-brainer, right, but it almost seems like an insult, right? As though these Aboriginal people who've been here for 60,000 years, as though they have gone somewhere only now to be rediscovered and incorporated into the Western-based constitution, right? Well, if we have come to this stage where we're talking about Aboriginal people and the Constitution in the same breath, right, like we do now with this upcoming voice referendum, shouldn't that be the case where we instead look at the customs and laws, the Aboriginal customs and laws, and our broad imported Western-based constitution, and put them side by side and align them together, right? Because they haven't gone anywhere, they have always been here. It's those who brought the concept of constitution here, right? So shouldn't we do this alignment first rather than enshrining them into the imported constitution in the first place? So that's a summary of my kind of voice that advocates for the voice in the upcoming referendums. Okay, so now I am on the no side of the fence. And here my thinking is very influenced by Sam Harris. Sam Harris says something like this: look, if we're saying that we want a fair, equal and colorblind society, right, we need to be caring less about things like skin color, race, gender, sexual orientation or background, right? And by caring less about these things will simply cease to matter, right? But he says this: we do the opposite. We on the one hand say that no one should be looked at differently or treated differently based on their gender or skin color or background or ethnicity or whatever, right? But we're focusing more and more on these things, right? We're treading on eggshells, we're tying ourselves in knots, we're creating more boxes to tick, right? It's almost as though we're doing the contradiction to which we say we want, right? It's almost like we weaving, threading our own straitjacket and slowly, like a constrictor snake, like choking ourselves slowly, right? And it's terrible. Sam Harris uses this analogy with hair color, right? What is a hair color? It is a people's personal attribute, right, which is visible outside, on the street or in a room, but it says nothing meaningful about our attitudes and personality and temperament or work habits or punctuality or vices, right? It's totally meaningless, right? Now, he uses this analogy where, well, imagine if I told you that a board of directors suddenly started considering people's hair color when appointing a board of directors in a corporation, you know, for example, when they said, wow, this year we managed 50% brunettes on our board. Or imagine this, if a university faculty, when publishing their graduate rankings, would say something like, wow, this year we're down 30% blondes, you know, in our law department. How terrible is that? Or imagine if a government department said something like, we're very progressive. This year we have established a safe zone for red hairs, right? Red hairs. Now, if I told you that, you would probably laugh, but you would think that I'm mad. Like, how crazy is this? But yet, we doing the same thing based on people's skin color, based on their gender, their sexual orientation, based on their race and ethnicity, right? Again, we're saying that these things don't matter, but in practice, we're treating them as almost as though it's the most important thing that matters, and do the opposite to which we say we actually want. And from that angle, I think the voice is potentially a dangerous, potentially bad move. Why? Not because you can't make case for it, for all the history and, like I said in my yes side of the fence. No, of course you can make case for it, but it could be it could potentially open a door. It could create a precedent for creating some other subgroups later on in 5 or 10 years time, who could claim and insist on special considerations based on nothing else than their group identity. And I'm thinking about maybe the Vietnamese refugees or their children who fled after during the Vietnam War, or the Jews, obviously, of what happened, and others. Okay, so these were my two brain farts, two voices in my head, one for voice and one against the voice, and this is one way of fleshing out my thinking about this and pondering about this important issue. There is plenty of time. The referendum, which is compulsory, is not until October, so we have 2 or 3 months. I have never voted in a compulsory referendum ever, or any referendum for that matter ever. So if you have any comments or ideas, please drop them below. And thanks very much for your time, for watching, and you have a great day. Bye.